Pokemon for Nintendo Switch. Is it safe to say this is the most anticipated Pokemon game of all time? I think so. People are dying to get just even a glimpse of this game. Desperate to simply see what is it going to look like. The recent quote-unquote screenshot leak. Let's talk about that for a second. This screenshot was making headlines, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, as a supposed shot of the new Pokemon game in action. And yes, it was actually this blurry. Personally, I love this thing. Reminded me of something you'd see back in, like, 2003. I could see it now. I could see a friend of mine messaging me on AIM, being like, "Yo, dude, did you see this? Someone was at Nintendo HQ and snapped a pic of the new Pokemon game on their flip phone." Sweet, right? Yeah, totally sweet. But the fact that it gained so much attention, a lot of negative attention, because it looked more like these HD versions of the current 3DS games running like on a PC or something. People were like, it better not look like this. It shows you just how hyped people are for this game and how big of expectations they have for it. But are those expectations perhaps too big? Now, I've gone on record saying I'm not expecting much from this game, besides that I think it needs to be the best Pokemon game ever made. No big deal, right? For real though, yeah, I do have big expectations, but I think they're within reason. You know, from a starting point, I think all people are expecting more. More Pokemon, more locations to explore, more graphics, more gyms or whatever the boss type situations are. And I don't think that's too much at all. I mean, with the added power, the capabilities of the Switch, I think it's safe to say we'll get all that sort of stuff. But that's not enough, is it? People want something new, a shake-up for this series, which I will say I think the formula has gotten very stale, so I agree. Obviously nothing too drastic. The core always has to be, you know, capturing and training Pokemon. But to me, the course of the game is really the problem. The journey. It's always been pretty much the same. This really needs to feel more like a grand adventure, in my opinion. I don't know if I'm saying it needs to be like an entrancing story or anything. I think it could be. A story of a kid and his Pokemon could get as deep and emotional as you want it to be, in my opinion. I mean, all you'd have to do is kill one, right? But yeah, I'm more so saying make it more epic than just like, oh yeah, I gotta go on to the next gym and then the one after that, and there's some giant bird or something waiting for me to catch at the very end. If you ever watch the show, the anime, you know that the goal for Ash was fighting the gym trainers, becoming a Pokemon master, just like in the games. But that wasn't as much of the focus, because it's not actually that interesting. The focus was on the process of adventuring in this Pokemon world. You know, getting sidetracked constantly, meeting people, building bonds. I guess maybe I'm saying the side adventures, not necessarily side quests, but that too should be exciting. You know, I remember, now, I'm OG Gen 1 with my Pokemon knowledge. That's what most of the extent of it is from when I was a kid, which was the original Blue and Red and the original anime. So I have to go back a ways to talk about my expertise. But in the original games, the Pokemon Tower, you know, Ghost Pokemon are my favorite type. And learning about like the Cubone and Marowak stuff, that was awesome. That was a tearjerker. But you just read about it in a text box. And yes, there wasn't much else they could do, and that's the point. With this series, they've always been handheld games. They've always felt like handheld games. I'll be the first to tell you, there's already some great lore, some great moments in this series, room for plenty more, but it just feels like mostly because of the limitations of these handhelds that it's been on, it's not executed in a grandiose way. Like, it always comes down to, like even in that Pokemon Tower, just like all these other things in these games, it pretty much always comes down to, you know, enter a location, fight the trainers to get from point A to point B, and, you know, encounter random Pokemon along the way. This game can really be jam-packed with like memorable moments that just stand out from anything that's been done in this series before. And that's what I'm hoping for. People are expecting some new things to pull them into this series, to grab them for the first time or after a long hiatus, the latter of which is totally me. And while yes, Pokemon will surely sell big numbers, if this ends up being just a paint-by-the-numbers Pokemon adventure just in HD, it's still going to do gangbusters, okay? But I think it does need to shake things up to obviously get those newcomers and people who have fallen off with the series, but also to re-energize a lot of their core base. I feel like even those who are big Pokemon fans, they're ready for something new. Everybody loves getting excited about stuff, and while, yes, a full HD Pokemon just in itself is worth getting excited about, that's why, you know, all this fretting over the screenshot thing, people are just dying to see what this game's going to look like, but I do think it needs to go beyond that. So yeah, I do have some big expectations for them to do something new here. However, and here's what I would also tell people who are, you know, in this boat with me. If you want something new, if they deliver something new, don't expect it to be perfect. This is sort of like when I did that video comparing Breath of the Wild and Mario. While I felt like Mario had less problems, Breath of the Wild tried way more things, felt totally separate from the other games in the series, while still being a Zelda game at its core. Even if it stumbles more than Breath of the Wild, I'd much prefer that over playing it safe. And while I'm on the subject, in the vein of Breath of the Wild, I hope this game similarly opens up the world a lot more. I mean, really let players just wander off the beaten path and get totally lost in this world as they search for Pokemon and whatnot, find hidden locations and stuff. That's what I want to see. Certainly more than delivering just another standard Pokemon game that's simply prettier than all the other ones. I get the importance of seeing this stuff in HD. I'm going to be blown away just like all of you guys, I'm sure, with how great this game's probably going to look. But even still, at the end of the day, gameplay is king. That doesn't change here. And let's not lose sight of the fact that this is just going to be the start of Pokemon games on Nintendo Switch. There are going to be a ton of these titles on the system, so if they do try a bunch of different stuff, and some of it doesn't deliver, some of it straight up acts as a detriment to the game, makes it worse, they can remove and change those things over time. There's going to be room for growth here. I think more so than just, you know, changing things, adding things, this is the opportunity for the Pokemon franchise to start totally fresh with this series. I mean, those developers, they have to be excited with the new possibilities offered by the Nintendo Switch, and I hope they were allowed to run a little wild and explore some routes that weren't possible before. And yes, maybe they all won't turn out amazing, but I think players would rather see that. New twists and turns on the Pokemon formula over just more of the same. So what I'm saying is, it's fine, I think, to have high expectations for this game. In terms of getting a bigger, prettier Pokemon than you've ever seen before, you'll surely get that, but many, including myself, are expecting something new here, to hook them with this game where past games haven't been able to, or where past games have lost them as players. But we also need to keep in mind that this is going to be the first Pokemon game on this new hardware, so everything might not be perfect out of the gate. So with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the expectations for this new Pokemon game in the comments. What do you expect to see from this new game? Do you think other people should be lowering their expectations? As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.